All right, everyone, what is the goal of this lecture? Okay, I am getting inundated with questions from just a broad spectrum of different people, places, outlets, etc. What do I think, since I do Latin American politics and have been to South America, what do I think about the United States and particularly Trump's new pressure, possible invasion of Venezuela? Now, most people are going to say, oh, that's a typical lefty professor. He's against it and he hates Donald Trump, etc. That is actually only part true. It is not because I hate Donald Trump or love Donald Trump. It has nothing to do with Republican, Democrat, or anyone else. But I am against what's going on. And I will tell you why it is bad policy. And it has nothing to do with Republican, Democrat, or even interventions. First of all, bombing the boats. What's the problem? Do you really trust intelligence, generally speaking? Think about it. More recently, right, under Tulsi Gabbard is her name, right, she fires two intelligence experts who say, well, we don't see the Venezuelan government in, relations with Tren de Aragua, this terrorist organization, whatever you want to call it, cartel, horrible group, etc. There's no evidence. Okay, we don't like what you say, you're fired. Now, this is not something that's just in the Trump administration, right? When General Shinseki told Bush that he would need more troops on the ground in Iraq, nope, we don't like that, you're fired, right? Intelligence is politicized. Right? I mean, let's be honest with us. If these people don't like what they're getting, they don't want to get the CIA director, Casey, under Ronald Reagan. If there's evidence of Russian involvement, that is Soviet Union at the time, in Central America in the 1980s, tell me about it. If there is none, I don't want to hear about it. That's politicization. They just want the information that they believe. Now, people say, well, you're against, say, Republican. No, look at Clinton. I mean, Clinton bombed Sudan under this idea, this pharmaceutical plant, Al-Shifa, or whatever it was, in 1998, I want to say, saying, though that pharmaceutical plant has chemical weapons, nuclear weapons. Nothing was ever found. So we bombed a country under Clinton, right, a Democrat, and oops, we might have made a mistake. Oopsie doopsie, right? Clinton, based on intelligence, when he was bombing with NATO, the former Yugoslavia, oops, we bombed the Chinese embassy. Well, why? Do I think the Clinton administration said we're going to bomb the Chinese embassy? Of course not. But it was bad intelligence. This idea that you can just go around, hey, I got intelligence. Intelligence isn't always intelligent, and it's politicized. It doesn't matter the administration. It doesn't matter the president. It doesn't matter whether you're MAGA, Republican, liberal, or whatever. You need evidence, and there is no strong evidence that these people are necessarily drug smugglers. Now, in a lot of those areas where we're bombing the boats, they don't even want to go fishing. And that's how they survive, because they're scared to get bombed. And if they get bombed, we'll just say, oh yeah, you're a terrorist, you're a drug smuggler. I don't believe presidents. And then with intervention, are you people serious? When has intervention gone well? It's like Afghanistan, Iraq, but people forget, even under Barack Obama, as you conservatives say, Barack Hussein Obama, look at what he did to Libya. He's going to get rid of Gaddafi, use NATO, and it's going to be democracy after. It's a failed state. Our ambassador was killed. There is no embassy there. And all those fighters from Libya then went to other African countries and started creating a massive, uprisings that were against our interests, because all of a sudden these soldiers had to go somewhere. The problem with this is, you people do know we lost Vietnam. Look at that war. We should have destroyed them, but no. we completely underestimated our opponent. We went in, right? We carpet bomb. We use all this stuff. Even Henry Kissinger, who I'm not a fan of, said this war, these things we're using is for more to fight the Germans in World War II, not to fight the Viet Cong, which was a guerrilla group. And we got kicked out. Look at Haiti. Bush invaded Haiti, kidnapped Aristide, and look at what it is today. These interventions are not the best. Really bad intelligence. They listen to a lot of people who aren't particularly close to the government, like we listen to with Iraq, with Ahmad Chalabi. Same thing. It does, and then people say, well, you're just against the United States. No, all countries do this. Che Guevara, going into Bolivia, knew nothing about the indigenous people, knew nothing about the country. Easy to be killed, right? Look at Russia in Afghanistan, right? There's so many examples. Look at China and Vietnam. When you get beat by the Vietnamese, right? It's like, it's all these things. People keep on saying, invade. These countries do not do well with these invasions. Now, maybe you could even say, well, look at Panama. We got rid of Noriega. That might be true, but we had to kill a lot of people, which is documented, but the United States won't accept that we went through this poor Barrio, killed a lot of people, etc. Now, I'm particularly not a fan of Maduro, but at the same time, will this work? And I thought Trump was going to go on an interventionist campaign, and that's why I think he was able to win, because Bush himself, with all his wars, kind of, pushed the party outside of the Bush, kind of that conservative, neoconservative camp. That's my opinion. But as far as like just saying, oh, I know these people have something. It's like, you trust these people? So when Bill Clinton said he didn't do anything with Monica Lewinsky, you believe him? When Trump says he did nothing with that porno star, Daniels, you believe it? It's like, do you believe what all these people are saying? That's why we have due process. You need evidence in cases. And in fact, correct me if I'm wrong, Trump didn't even believe the DNA evidence in the Central Park Five, I want to say, when the DNA evidence said that they weren't the rapists. This was a long time ago. He still said, no, they're still guilty. So, I'm not laughing at that. That's sad, but I don't believe any of these people. It has nothing to do with it. I just used, Barack Obama as an example. His invasion of Libya was a total disaster. So this is not about Republican, Democrat. This is about hubris. This is about people, not understanding areas that they invade. Do you think the Russians understood Afghanistan when they invaded? This is probably a very, very bad policy. And now he's saying, and if you notice, he's, do you really believe Trump? He says, like Petro, because Petro is saying stop bombing our ships. He says, oh, this guy's a drug smuggler. It's like, anyone Trump doesn't like Elon Musk, oh, we're going to deport this guy. He's a lion, Elon, and all this stuff. I don't buy into politicians. I particularly don't. It has nothing to do with Republican, Democrat. I don't even hate everything Trump does. When Trump says NATO needs to pay more and needs to do more, I agree. But this policy in and of itself is, and I want to end with something what people might not understand. In Trump's first administration, him and Pompeo were fully convinced that Maduro was going to fall. And Maduro humiliated Trump. He slapped him, and I'm no fan of Maduro, but he won. And, they were going to overthrow Maduro. Maduro was going to fall. All this stuff. And what they didn't understand was one thing. One, Maduro is not the president of Venezuela. It's Vladimir Padrino. He is the power in Venezuela. And do you know where he trained? The School of the Americas in the United States of America. That's in Georgia now. Was actually kicked out of Panama because it was so atrocious, teaching them how to kill, etc. Somoza, Del Buison, a ton of people, horrible people went there. So this is the man who's really, really behind it, and they keep on saying Maduro, but no. So Maduro didn't fall. In fact, these kind of paramilitary, unofficial people got arrested for trying to invade Venezuela, and then we had, if you might have known, the prison swap. But Maduro survived. So Trump, as I think everyone can say and admit, that Trump is, he doesn't like to lose. He gets a little bitchy when people, kind of challenge him. So when Maduro beat him, now he's has an obsession with Venezuela. And, don't forget, even if the people, I'm sure not many Venezuelans are going to cry if Maduro falls. But don't forget, when you do start putting pressure on a country, it can create a rally around the flag effect. There are a lot of issues there. Even if someone hates Maduro, do they want to be invaded? That becomes even a bigger thing. And don't forget, when Hugo Chavez was democratically elected, and Jimmy Carter went to Venezuela and said that was the fairest election he ever saw, the international community didn't want to believe it. And the United States of America with the World Bank and the IMF went in, helped overthrow Hugo Chavez, and they actually brought him back when Carmona, that was the guy that took over, started a dictatorship. So they brought Hugo Chavez back. And this is what kind of started this process, was intervention. If we had left Venezuela alone, like we did in Costa Rica, if you see another one, or anywhere else, I would say that Venezuela would be on a different part. These interventions are very bad. So this is not necessarily ideological argument. This is a factually based argument of so many different interventions by different countries that go awry. And I think that this is a titanic problem. Now that behind me, and I'll end here, that's actually Hugo Chavez in Nicaragua, because they have they had a strong relationship. Nicaragua, they went a little crazy, but it's kind of interesting that they put up all this Hugo Chavez propaganda. This is in Nicaragua. I took this photo. But really start thinking about intervention. I mean, Afghanistan, Iraq, when we bombed Iran, you can agree with what you want. But I don't think intervention works for as much as people want it to work. And the fact that we have a president that, as he says, I explain things, people don't explain to me. Well, he's not even open to any, other ideas. And that's cognitive dissonance. When you start getting more information that might not fit your schema, then you just marginalize it. And I've tried not. So I'd like people to disagree with me on this. And as about the legality of bombing the boats, we need evidence. You can't just go around bombing things and saying, and then he says, these are, drug traffickers, all these things. But we need that evidence, right? I don't trust any president. I don't care if you're Democrat, Libertarian, Bernie Sanders, Marjorie Taylor Greene. I don't trust people, generally speaking, because they just do whatever they want and they think, oh yeah, this is just what it is. And then you realize, wow, they made a mistake. Everyone is fallible. So that's why we have a great country with a great constitution that protects us from this type of behavior. So you're welcome to disagree with me, and I really appreciate you listening to my rant. Take care, everyone.